It's that there are a lot of us now, and there's a lot of pedestrians too, and they are terrified because we go really fast, and like, you know, some of us are like downhill skiers. We're kind of like doing the giant slalom around the pedestrians with their jog strollers, and we're quiet. Well, the law has always required that while we can be on the sidewalk and ride around them, we have to yield the right-of-way to the pedestrian, and when we pass them, we have to make an audible signal. You could have a little bell, or you can say on your left, or whatever you want to say, but bear in mind that if you say on your left, 10% of the human population has a death wish, and they will move left. So what you want to say is passing, or bicyclists, or hello, and that way if they stagger or fall in front of you, you gave them that audible signal, and you will not be held responsible for what happens next. If you don't give them an audible signal, and it doesn't mean that it has to penetrate death rock through their earphones into their brain, you just have to make it be loud enough that if they had normal hearing, they could hear it. You can say that you did what you were supposed to do before passing them, and that is enough. Another trap is contained in paragraph D. And a simple and unfortunate, and this is on page 65 at the top of the page, a simple example of the problem with this is if you are on your bike riding along with your cousin who's pushing her jog stroller, and your nephew who's on his rollerblades, and your significant other who's on his skateboard, and you're all on the sidewalk and you approach a crosswalk and everybody's going like at a jog speed, they can all jog across the road and everybody's got to stop and yield to them. But you, alone of all of them on your bicycle, that vehicle that can go faster than any of those other things, you have to go slower than the rest of them. You may walk your bike or roll your bike no faster than a walking speed. This is a speed limit that's set on your right-of-way. Same thing where you're on the sidewalk, you're crossing in front of that parked car that's trying to exit the Fred Meyer parking lot. You can go no faster than a walking speed if you want to keep that legal right-of-way. We've tried to change this law for a decade and a half. The Oregon legislature is not having any of it. We're stuck with this law. That means not that you have to ride at a walking speed all the time on the sidewalk, but if you want to have a motor vehicle yield to you and give you your right-of-way, you can't go faster than a walking speed, which is like kind of wobbling, but 3 miles an hour. And then once you're beyond the car, you can go back to normal speed. But you must go to walking speed. And the rationale for it is the motorists are not supposed to have to look out for somebody going 30 miles an hour on the sidewalk. That's what it's all about. And when we go to the legislators and start talking about how it ought to be 6 miles an hour or reasonable speed or 10 miles an hour or whatever you might think would be okay, they say, yeah, but what about this? Just the other day I had a bike messenger ride in front of my car and give me the finger. Or I had a kid on my block who rode right out in front of me on that bike. I mean, they're just filled with horror stories. And so the law is not changing. We're stuck with it. And so it's a CYA for you to know about the law and to follow it, because many bicyclists have been like riding the 205 bike path, crossing Division, Clinton, or whatever one of the streets in Southeast is, and they're going like 8 miles an hour, which isn't very fast. Some motorist does what we call a bump turn, where they come in, they don't look, they do a quick right, they bump the bicyclist. Bicyclist falls down, ambulance gets called, they got a broken collarbone. It's clear that the motorist was at fault. The motorist falling all over themselves. I'm sorry, I didn't see you, I should have looked. I know my husband told me I shouldn't do it this way, and I just was texting, and then I just was thinking about something else, and I hit you, and I'm so sorry, and it's all my fault. And then the cop comes, and they tuck a ticket into your pocket, because you can't hold on to it because you've got a broken collarbone, for violating this law. And you're like, oh man, insult added to injury. I can't believe it. So know about this law, because it is a trap. Also on page 65, another trap, ORS 814-420. The good news is you get to have a bike lane to ride in. The bad news is you have to ride in it. And what that means is that if there's a bike lane, you got to roll in the bike lane. Some people don't like bike lanes. But you have to ride in the bike lane, not when there's no cars around maybe, but the fact is that if there's a bike lane, you've got to use it. If there is a UPS truck or some dangerous thing going on in the bike lane, or if you want to turn left from a bike lane that's on like a multi-lane one-way, nobody wants to turn left across several lanes of traffic. So in 2007, we went to the legislature and said, look, we bicyclists in Oregon, we've been kidnapped by the bike lane. You made it so we got to be in the bike lane, but when do we get to leave the bike lane? It's like what are we supposed to do? Stay till right into the river on the bike lane? And there's all kinds of times we got to leave the bike lane. We got to turn left. There's somebody that parked on it. There's some gravel. There's a dead body in it. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in bike lanes. Nobody respects them. They throw stuff in there. We got to leave them sometimes. So the legislature, if you take a look at it, says you can leave the bike lane if there's a condition present where you got to leave it. But when you leave the bike lane in traffic, think in your head, what am I going to do if some nutcase hits me? I am going to have to point to some reason that I had to leave the bike lane. Just do that as an exercise, a total CYA, and you'll be fine. And then as soon as you're past the situation, go back in the bike lane. And if you don't like riding in the bike lane, then go on a different street, right? If you don't like the bike lane, go on a street without a bike lane. That's what some of us do. Some of us have an elitist attitude toward bicycle lanes. But, you know, the good news is we got them. The bad news is we got to use them. On page 66 is a law with a very weird name. But it is what I call the Bicyclist Bill of Rights. And this is like the core law for us. And even though it's got a weird title, the fact is that this law is our key to the highway. And so you can read this law, but I'm going to tell you what our right to the road is. We've got a right to take the lane. I'm not talking about the bike lane. I mean the lane, the big person lane, the real lane. And we can ride two up side by side. So long as we don't slow down traffic, not at the speed limit, but at the speed of traffic. So if you're slowing down people even though they're speeding, you got to go single file, and you have to ride as far to the right as practicable. That means as far to the right, not of the shoulder or on the grass on the side of the road, but on the roadway. And practicable just means practical. But there is a great power that's given to all of us bicyclists. Because we are a mutant, we can share the lane, and we did come here first. And when there is a condition in the road, or beside the road, that makes it so that we have to take the entire lane again, we have a right to take the entire lane if it makes people slow down or stop for us until that condition no longer exists. And if you take a look at paragraph 2C, you'll see that anything, including the kitchen sink in the lane, justifies our right to take it. And it's like, you know, pedestrians, animals, I mean, I can give you a list. Like gravel, somebody about to open a car door, a hedge that comes all the way down to the road such that maybe somebody's coming down a driveway and couldn't see you on the far right, a loose dog alongside the roadway that might run out in front of you, that allows you to take the lane. You can also take the entire lane when you're going to be making a left turn, because generally speaking, it's not a good idea to make a right turn or left turn from the far right side of the lane. You want to make a left turn from the left side of the lane so that those people who are coming in both directions can see that you're intending to turn left. And if you're on a one-way, you can make a decision to either ride as far to the right as practicable or as far to the left as practicable on a one-way street. You can go on either side of the road. I'm not talking about where there's a bike lane. I'm just talking about a regular one-way street. So you can go to the right or to the left, either side of the street if you want. And you can also take the entire lane if the lane is so narrow that you can't pass safely side by side with another vehicle. That's a tremendous amount of power. You can basically close the lane down. And if you do close the lane down, don't like close the lane down in front of a speeding TriMet bus so they got to put on the brakes and knock everybody down inside. You know, make your timing so that you go out in the lane when everybody has an opportunity to see and slow down for you.